Hi, everyone. I'm Kara Golden, and I'm here today with my next guest, Amy Wu, for our next episode of Author Talks Live. I'm thrilled that you are here joining us for our 20-minute segment. Everyone's got time for 20 minutes. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you are an audience member, please send in comments and questions, and we'll be featuring some of those later on in the episode. But like I said, really excited for our next guest. Amy Wu is the author of this book, From Farms to Incubators. It actually doesn't come out until May 4th, so just around the corner, but you can definitely pre-order it. And it's an incredible book by Amy, who is an award-winning writer and journalist. I have followed Amy for years. She's written for many publications that you would recognize, including Time Magazine and the Wall Street Journal, HuffPo, New York Times, USA Today. And she has really been following ag tech. And this is 5 years worth of really sharing some of the, what am I saying? Bringing stories together from all of these different incredible farms and incubators. And I mean, it's just incredibly interesting. And I'm going to let Amy jump in and tell you a little bit more about it. But welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Kara. Thanks for having me today.
Very excited. So 5 years of reporting and filming in the field of ag tech. What inspired you to devote the last several years to writing this book?
Well, actually, Kara, all of this was unplanned completely, the entire project. I was sent to the Salinas Valley in 2015, which is the vegetable salad bowl of the world, to cover agriculture and government in 2015. And I noticed that there were not a lot of women, especially women in leadership positions and decision-making positions in agriculture. And at the same time, there was this sector, like really fledgling sector called ag tech, that was growing. That's agriculture and innovation. And there was an accelerator in Salinas called the Western Growers Center for Innovation and Technology, and there were ag tech startups. And I just started to ask, like, how many women entrepreneurs and women innovators in ag tech are there here, especially women of color? And I really couldn't find any in the beginning, but then I found a handful in 2017, and we made a documentary called From Farms to Incubators. It's been screened at over 50 places, including South by Southwest. And then in 2018, I kept getting these emails and calls from people like, have you heard of this woman, or have you heard of this innovation? And I just thought, wow, all of these inspiring stories. So in 2018, I started to put together this book, because I was like, where else can I put all these stories in there together?
I love it. It's so interesting. And obviously, California in particular has had fires, drought. I mean, what were just share a little bit of some of the stories that you heard, that people that had been impacted by this?
Yeah, absolutely. So farmers in general, especially California and actually across the country and globally, are facing a lot of challenges. In California, for example, it's a severe labor shortage, lack of field workers because they're aging out. So there's not enough field workers to actually pick the produce, now. So ag tech is really a software and innovation and technology that helps solve some of growers' biggest problems. So in the example of field workers, there's robotics and automation as a solution. So I also saw that there's a lack of farmable and arable soil now in the U.S. as well. I mean, there's a depleted amount of land out there for farming. So really, ag tech is a solution to some of the biggest problems that farmers face. And actually, farmers have a lot of pressure, because in 2050, I read that the population is estimated to be about almost 10 billion people to feed internationally.
So interesting. And so, you think about these farmers. And I think so many times we don't think about them as innovators, right? And some of the challenges that they're having along the way. And clearly, I saw so many examples in your book where that's just not the case. And it's not just about drought, but it's also about maybe they don't have the funding to actually uh, buy those inventions or come up with inventions to actually go and really change for the better. What were some of the coolest inventions that you've seen in the market that maybe people should know about?
Well, there's so many actually, but some of the cool inventions that I can think of, for example, is the self-driving tractor. There's a company called Bear Flag Robotics out of California,
So
actually
cool.
owned and started by a woman, where the tractor is self-driving, and that's pretty cool. And again, that addresses the labor issue in agriculture, because frankly, there aren't enough farmers out there, and that's also declining as well, the number of growers out there and the field workers, like I said. Also, there's the issue of food safety as well. And what I noticed, Kara, is that a lot of these women, their innovations are really trying to address problems in the food system. So actually, like, food safety is another issue. There's a company out there called AgShift, and they have a technology called the Hydra, and it's a machine where you place in strawberries or berries or nuts, and it uses artificial intelligence to grade those fruits and those nuts as well. So I think ag tech is fascinating because it's this balance of sort of a new kind of workforce and also using new kinds of innovation to solve some of the biggest problems that growers are facing because of climate change, frankly.
Yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. So why do you think ag tech is really attracting so many women though? I feel like I mean, these stories in here, of course, I love the great stories, just for founder stories in general, but it just made me really think that probably a lot of these are family businesses too, right? Where it's kind of the next generation taking on and, it's very, very interesting. What was one of the ones that really struck you?
Well, that's a great observation and a question, Kara, because agriculture traditionally has been male dominated, and meaning farms have been passed down from generation to generation, and often to the boys in the family. So there were very few women actually at the helm, but I think what's exciting about ag tech is it's this new opportunity within the intersection of agriculture and innovation where women have actually not sat at the helm, and they're the ones creating the innovation. So a lot of these women are not farmers. They don't come from farming families, and they were able to get into this sector and work with growers and also build their own companies, frankly. And they're the first in their family to actually launch a business. They're the first in their family to get into agriculture, and a lot of them come from a STEM background: science,
Mhm.
technology, engineering, and math. I'm finding that's a commonality with a lot of women in there. So it's pretty fascinating.
Interesting. I would love to go to some of these ag tech summits after reading your book because it seems
Oh,
like
great.
that's where, yeah, no, it was interesting. Some of the people, because I didn't know all these stories. I mean, one of the stories was Ellie, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, Symes, from
Yeah.
the B Corp. I thought that was incredibly interesting, and just talking about the software and how that's monitoring hive strength. Can you share a little bit more about that story?
So Ellie is pretty fascinating because she is a young woman. Again, I think might have been in her early 20s when she launched this company. She launched it
Mhm.
actually when she was going to school at the University of Indiana, and so yeah, again, she came up. She's no background in beekeeping or in agriculture, but she saw that actually her technology could help grade the quality of some of these beehives to help with growers that focus on crops such as almonds specifically that need those hives in order to pollinate their plants. So again, she saw this opportunity and this connection, with helping growers, and yeah, she didn't plan to get into beekeeping either. So she launched this company in school, and then got her funding, got on the phone with growers, like drove around the Central Valley of California talking with thousands of growers, almond growers, to ask them what their needs are. And she's like just one example of so many women who just again, they don't have backgrounds in agriculture, but they weren't intimidated. They were like, I have an idea, a solution for you, and let me jump in. Let me ask you more about your needs and how I can help you. So fascinating.
I love it. So the book, again, is called From Farms to Incubators. You can order it on Amy's site. You can also go to Amazon.com and many other booksellers. We'll be taking some questions here for Amy. Let's see, for women who want to enter this field, what is your advice?
Oh, great question. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to enter the field of agri-food tech now. Especially there's a growing interest in this area from consumers and also investors. If you have just want to learn more about this field, number one, there are some amazing organizations out there in agriculture, like the Women in Agribusiness, and they are all, they have networking opportunities, mentorship opportunities. There are actually accelerator programs out there, and I listed some of them in the book, where they're looking for early stage ideas. Like if you have an interest in idea, you don't necessarily have to have a baked business. You can enter there and talk to some of the folks there and say, how can we work together on building something? Also, like it's just networking, relationships. In this book, there are 30 women, and I can tell you that all 30 women that I've talked to really want to connect with women interested in this field, and they're looking for talent for their companies too. So feel free to reach out to them and to connect with them as well, I'd say. And if you have a background in in math, science, engineering, you don't have to have a background in farming. I mean, they really need your talent.
I love it. Do you feel like they talk to each other? Is there a community there? Is there, or do they kind of get siloed into kind of doing what they're doing?
Oh, that's an awesome question. So when I first started this 5 years ago, and I did a screening and brought together some of these women, they would look at each other like, I didn't know she existed. I didn't know she was there. And they would,
what does almonds have to do with strawberries?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And they would ask for each other's email addresses afterwards. There, like I said, there's a lot of, they work together. Now, 5 years later, I'm finding that the women, the pool has grown. The number of women in the sector has actually grown. I don't think it's because I'm unearthing more. I think there are more women in this area. There are more women at the trade organizations who are speakers, who are chairing the conferences. And I think it's just because there's a greater interest in the sector. I mean, investors are investing more, and there's just more opportunity. So I would say that the women are working with each other also and collaborating and so forth. Yeah.
And you also did a documentary. You're a documentary filmmaker as well. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So yes, the documentary first came out in 2017, and as an aside, I now find it interesting that I made the documentary first, and that was what inspired the book. A lot of people write a book first, and then it inspires maybe a documentary. But it was a short documentary that I made in 2017 that presented 4 women, all in Salinas Valley, California, or connected to Salinas Valley, who launched companies in the area of ag tech. And I think what's interesting is I didn't just want to talk about their innovation. I wanted to talk about personally who they are, and also what motivated them to, for example, move across the country from New York to California to take a huge risk and start a company in a new sector and face a lot of the challenges that all entrepreneurs face. I mean, they have to build a team, they have to raise money, they have to get out there and market themselves. So, I mean, I was really curious on what inspired them and what motivated them to do this, because it's such a hard and challenging road. And I found that the commonality is a lot of them are really persistent, first of all. But secondly, they believe that they have an innovation that actually solves big impact problems. And they want to also contribute to the food systems, and whether that be regenerative agriculture, food safety, tackling food waste. So I found that
so interesting. And where can people watch this movie, by the way?
They can watch the documentary from farmsteincubators.com. We've made the documentary available now, and you can check it out there. And also, it is screening at a couple of the film festivals starting in May as well. But we have all the information on the website.
Amazing. So one last question: how has climate change affected the ag tech field?
I would say tremendously. There's this domino trickle down effect. I mean, climate change has really created a lot of problems and threats to growers, and it means that some of them have to change their crop plan because of the changing climate. So whatever they planned to grow maybe the year before now has to be altered, and so forth. So I think with ag tech, whether that be sensors that can track the details of a field, whether it can help with pest management, it can help collect data and analyze data for farmers. So it really can help tremendously, especially with the fast changes that come with climate change.
I love it. So Amy, so terrific having you here. Everyone go out and get Amy's book and support learning more about these farmers, from farms to incubators. Amy Wu, thank you so much. How do people find out more about you? Do you want to give people your website too?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would love to hear from you all out there, and you can find me at farmsteincubators.com, or feel free to actually follow us on Facebook. We're having a lot of updates there, and feel free to just reach out to me by email, amy@farmsteincubators.com. I'd love to hear from all of you out there.
Amy is so incredible. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we will see you soon on our next Author Talks Live. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.